Hi guys, what's up? I'm Simone and welcome to the poetry through the works of William Blake, William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Let's get started. Let's start talking about his life, and I know that's really boring, but I need to say a few things. That he was obsessed. He really loved the democratic ideals of the French Revolution. After the declaration of war between France and England, he was very near to the edge of a nervous breakdown. Now we are in the 1795, and in this period he moved to the Lake District with his sister Dorothy, and in this period he met his best friend, we could say, Samuel Taylor Coleridge. The friendship between Samuel Taylor Coleridge and William Wordsworth was crucial. These friendships took to the creation of their most important poems and to the creation of their masterpiece, the Lyrical Ballads, which first published in 1798 and the second edition was published 2 years later, with the addition of the preface written by William Wordsworth, and which was to become the manifesto of the English Romanticism. Now let's talk about the poetry of William Wordsworth. The poetry of the 18th century was characterized by a high-level diction, which was called by William Wordsworth the poetic diction, but he didn't like it at all. In his opinion, poetry should deal with the daily matters and the things of every day, and not about the extraordinary. In his opinion, the poet is not a special human or a god, but it's only a man among the men. He was also interested in the relationship between man and nature, between the natural world and the man consciousness. Here we have an example. Wordsworth shared the Rousseau's faith in the excellence of child and in the godliness of nature. He thinks that man could achieve that good only through the cultivation of senses and feelings. All the poetry was based on the feelings. You broke my heart! Yeah, that's poetry! He thought that nature and man are inseparable. I will never let you go. For him, the nature is a source of joy and pleasure. It comforts man in sorrow and teaches how to love and how to act in a moral way. Alright guys, that is the first lesson of how to love and how to act in a moral way. He in his poems put a great importance on the sensations, on the memory and on the recollection in tranquility. Let's start with the sensations. Sensations lead to simple thoughts, which later combine into complex and more organized ideas. Memory therefore is a major force in the process of the growth of the poet's mind. And the last, but maybe the most important, is the recollection in tranquility. It's the result of all that genuine poetry, which are combined to form a very emotional poem. The poetry is an emotion recollected in tranquility. The poet has feelings and emotions in front of the nature, and then, when he is in tranquility, he recollects all of these emotions to write his poem. Alright, and now let's talk about William Blake. His origins were humble, and he remained poor all his life. Sit down. He studied at the Royal Academy of Art, and he made more illustrations of works such as the John Milton's masterpiece, Paradise Lost, and even the Bible. Here on my right you can see more of his paintings, and I know they are strange, but I don't know why I love them. His experience as visionary helped him to the development of his poetry, which is regarded as a nearly romantic poetry, because he totally rejects the neoclassical, literary and style. He also created the method of illuminated printing, and he emphasized the importance of imagination over reason. In his opinion, through the imagination, the man can see and can know the real world. Imagination, or also called vivid vision, means to see more, means to see beyond the reality. The poet therefore becomes a sort of prophet, who can see more deeply into reality. Now let's talk about Song of Innocence and Song of Experience. Song of Innocence was produced before the outbreak of the French Revolution, and Blake's love for the democratic ideals of the French Revolution was really high. The narrator of these poems and of this story is a shepherd, who received inspiration from a child in a cloud. In a cloud. The poems in the Song of Innocence deals with the childhood, a state of soul connected with happiness, freedom and imagination. Here on my right we can see an example of childhood, and yeah, I've never seen a baby such beautiful like him. Or her, it's all relative. Now let's talk about the Songs of Experience. Songs of Experience was published during the period of terror in France. In these poems, Blake created a counterpart of the shepherd, a bard. This new character has the role of questioning the themes of the previous collection. In these poems, the vision of the world is more complex and is more pessimistic. The experience identified with adulthood. Things are together and complete. Indeed, the two songs of experience and the songs of innocence are intended to be read together. So that was William Blake in few words, and now let's talk about Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Talk about Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Samuel Taylor Coleridge was born in Devonshire in 1772. During the university years, he was heavily influenced by the democratic ideals of the French Revolution, which made him an enthusiastic Republican. Everybody loved France in the 18th century. During the French Revolution, he and the poet Robert Southey planned to move to America, to establish a new utopian community in which the private ownership would not exist. In 1795, he met William Wordsworth, and 5 years later, he moved to the Lake District. During these years, all of his most important poems were written. The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, written in 1798. It is the first poem of the collection of the lyrical ballads. Christabel, an unfinished poem that talks about a young girl under a witch spell. Kubla Khan, again unfinished and probably written under the effect of the opium. Coleridge finally moved to London, where he wrote the Biographia Literaria in 1870, a text of literary criticism and autobiography. And now let's talk about the concepts of imagination and fancy for Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Coleridge emphasized the role of imagination in his poetic creation. He divides the imagination in primary imagination and in secondary imagination. Primary imagination can be experienced by every human being. Yeah, even you, stupid monkey. It is an unconscious process. It manifests itself through images which record relevant sensorial experiences happened in the past. Secondary imagination is more an echo of the primary imagination, and can only be experienced by the poet. Wordsworth uses imagination to half-create or modify the data of experiences through the recollection in tranquility, which transcends the data of experiences and creates thanks to the secondary imagination. The fancy is no other than a mode of memory. It is inferior to the imagination because it isn't creative. And now let's talk about his most important poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. The poem is divided in 7 parts. The first part begins with an ancient mariner that meets 3 wedding guests and stops one of them to tell him a story. The story begins with him that told to the wedding guest that once he passed the equator, he and his companions were stuck into the ice of the South Pole. Through the frog, a white bird, an albatross, arrived. The little and poor albatross was greeted by the other mariners as a sign of luck, but with no reason the ancient mariner killed him. From this moment a curse falls on the ship. The ship is pushed over the equator and then remains in the calm. The ship's crew now openly accuses the mariner for his crime, placing the body of the dead albatross around his neck. Oh, congratulations, this is the medal for the dumbest man alive. Congratulations. Now all the sailors start to die of thirst. But suddenly another ship appears. It is a ghost ship led by the death and life in death, that literally dies the lives of the sailors. It's like to flip a coin to decide the life of the other man. Okay, let's flip for my life. I call tails! Death wins the sailor's life, which then die, while life in death wins the mariner, that is the only one to survive. Now the ancient mariner is haunted by the memory of his dead companions. Now the mariner has regretted his mistakes, and so the albatross falls down of his neck. Now we are in part 5 and the spell is broken and all the sailors resuscitate. And while the sailors resuscitates, the mariner faints. Now we are in the part 6 and the mariner hears 2 spirits. The spirit of the past Christmas. I made a mistake, it's not Christmas Carol. 2 spirits are the polar spirits who wants to avenge the death of the poor albatross. Meanwhile, the ship heads to the mariner's homeland. Finally, the last part, and this part, the ship sinks. But the mariner finally can confess all his crimes. So now his task is to travel around the world and tell to the other people his story. It's to teach men how to love and how to respect all the God's creatures. So guys, we finally end this video, and this was poetry through the works of Samuel Taylor Coleridge, William Blake and William Wordsworth. Now I go back to my bed. Peace.